Hello, Minnesota Vikings faithful. You are listening to the Purple People podcast. My name is Kyle. I am accompanied by Adam Carlson.
Yo.
Kyle Smith.
What's going on, guys?
You were going to sing the entire podcast for us, correct?
Yes, I am. I didn't say I was going to sing.
Hey. You didn't say you were going to do it well, so there you go.
This is episode number 251 of the Purple People podcast. This one is titled Draft to the Future, which is my second favorite Back to the Future title after Back Out of the Future, of course.
Oh, that was amazing. That was the best show title ever.
Poor Jeff Baca.
Mm-hmm.
I tell ya.
I forgot that guy.
We are here this week to talk about Vikings football. We've got some news about the undrafted free agents that we didn't tackle last week, so we'll talk about this week. We got some news, reports, rumors, all that kind of stuff, and probably some stories about stuff that you don't care about. But let's start with the stuff that we know you probably care about, the Minnesota Vikings quick hits.
Mm-hmm.
First off, the dates and times have been officially finalized for the 2017 preseason games. My co-expert over on the Viking Age, Adam Patrick, wrote up a piece with the confirmed dates. So if you're looking to head out for week 3 or week 4 of the preseason, which before those dates were loosely put in there within a date range, I believe, of 3 days. But now they've been finalized. So if you're going to go to one of the games, all the dates and times now are finalized, so you can plan your trip accordingly. Preseason should be kind of fun this year.
It'll be fun. We got a lot of rookies, a lot of turnover on this team. And like we said, you can check that out over on the vikingage.com for all of the details. We didn't want to sit here and list off all the times for preseason because that's not exactly thrilling and entertaining stuff to listen to.
And we'll be talking about preseason in the future anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yep, totally.
Let's talk about the NFL draft because, of course, this one just happened. We got lots of players coming in from the 7th round, 6th round, 5th round, and on, all the rounds.
All the rounds, all around?
All of the rounds. But the Minnesota Vikings want to hold the NFL draft at either US Bank Stadium or Twin Cities Orthopedic Center. I believe that what they want to do is something like what happened in Chicago, where the draft would take place indoors at US Bank Stadium, and then they'd have like a huge outdoors gathering at Twin Cities Orthopedics, which would be a fantastic place to do it. The only problem is that I don't know if it was like this down in Minneapolis when the draft was going on, but when I was watching the draft at the bar with my friends, it was snowing really hard outside.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, they put in the bid for.
That would be a conflict with how they like to do everything, like you're saying, outside. Because I know I watched the Philly one, and it was nice weather, and God, they had thousands upon thousands of people. But if you could pile everyone in the in U.S.
Oh no, I think we lost Mr. Smith.
Yeah, there he goes.
Oh, well, we will see if he joins back in here shortly. They put the bid in really quick for either the 2022 or the 2023 NFL draft, which seems incredibly far off when you look at those dates on paper. Like by the year 2023, we should be living in a Blade Runner dystopian future, right, Adam?
I don't know. I remember growing up and remember hearing about the year 2000, how things were going to be, so I don't know.
I think we'll have flying cars and hoverboards, and we got Mr. Smith back with us now.
I apologize. I am not in my usual home. As you guys see, I have a new background every week because I'm all over the world. But I was saying, I think it would be weird if we did it there. I don't know, because like you're saying, with the bad weather and the time of the year, maybe it'd still be snowing. We could do it. Would you guys be cool with it being actually in US Bank Stadium?
I think it's a great venue. Do like they do for concerts. Section off some of the back, and you could really do something fantastic in there. That could be a lot of fun. You could get big reactions, big crowds. Goodell could be booed really loud. People could have a lot of fun.
I feel like
someone could climb the rafters.
Oh
hang
no!
A banner.
Yeah, I feel like
no rafter climbing
up, and like Adam said, if you did it like a concert, you could literally fill the stadium. I'm sure a lot of people would come, and you could have people on the field or whatever else. That'd be really, really cool.
That could be very, very interesting. So that's something to keep an eye on. Of course, we'll let you know if we hear anything more about that, because it would be pretty darn cool to have the NFL draft in Minneapolis.
I would go. Would you guys go? Because I would totally be down for buying tickets.
Well, it's a 10-minute drive from where I'm going to be living, so.
A lot of fun.
That would
Definitely.
be amazing.
Definitely be there. We got some more news here. The Minnesota Vikings on the football field have been making some changes as well. CJ Ham, who ended the regular season on the roster for the Minnesota Vikings, has been moved to fullback, which is an interesting decision because I did not think the Vikings were going to move forward with a fullback this year. I thought they were going to use a blocking tight end in a lot of those formations, but Ham is a bigger running back, and he still could get handoffs in the offense. Basically, what this does for him is it increases the odds of him latching on to the roster in some way, which is great for him because he is a young, talented player, and I'm interested to see what can happen with him. But it's strange to see him move on over to fullback, especially when you got running backs who are more comfortable running out of running out of the shotgun rather than the I formation. It's an interesting change, but I'm not sure how much it's going to help him because I do think the Vikings aren't going to use a fullback very much at all anymore. If they do, it might be, like I said, one of the tight ends or even Big Linval in there or something.
See, this is why we need everyone who joins in the show, or if there's a chatter right now, we had this discussion between the three of us, and I like that we had differences between us. I think it's a smart move for the depth at running back because, God forbid, our number one running back went down last year, and then it was the Jerick McKinnon and Matt Asiata show. So I think it would be good for depth. I'm not sure, like Adam said, that we need a fullback, especially with the way the offense is running, but it will be a shot for him to be the running back number 4. I wouldn't count him really as a fullback. Maybe he's just going to be listed as that. But I know Kyle had a different opinion on it, so maybe we can get your side of it and why you thought that probably wasn't going to work out.
We have Eric Grandal in the chat asking if Zach Line is still on the roster, and no, he's actually still a free agent, unrestricted, so I believe he can go wherever he wants to go.
Fantasy points.
He could be productive somewhere else. And thank you, Eric, on the big move to Minneapolis. It's exciting. Be there the 1st of June. It's going to be a big change going from the small town to the big city, but we'll see. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. And really quick, I think just kind of my opinion on it is that it's the only way that I really see CJ Ham having a shot at making the roster is at fullback, because I think we're pretty set on the chart with 3 guys in front of him now. With Cook, Murray, and McKinnon. There's just no room for him. But clearly they like what they see in him. They've invested time with him being on the practice squad. They called him up to the active 53 at the tail end of last season. He's a bigger player. So you can look at him and you can go, well, fullback has potential, as well as maybe he can step in on special teams. He could be good on kick. Not so much returns. I don't think he'd be a return man, but going down on kickoff coverage, that could be a spot where he could carve out a little role on the team if possible. But I think it's going to be a tough road, a tough hill to climb for him to actually crack the roster this season, because I don't see us with a fullback on the roster. I think we can make do with pieces and parts, like Adam said, with some of the other guys that we have, and be perfectly fine.
We got Fire Breather 719 in the chat here asking about how Dalvin Cook is looking, speaking of running backs. And so far, I've heard nothing but praise about Dalvin Cook, his work ethic, his speed, his cuts, everything. So far, everything I've been hearing is fantastic, which is great.
We love to get ahead of ourselves here and on social media and everywhere else, but people are already talking about, have we found the next Adrian Peterson? I hate that comparison, but it's fun. It's fun to talk. It's fun to be hyped. I'm glad that he's doing what he needs to do during the off-season program so far.
I always hate comparing one person or character in a show or situation to another, because 2 things are rarely ever that similar. There's always differences that can make one thing unique compared to another. And Dalvin Cook is his own guy. He's not Adrian Peterson. He's not Jerick McKinnon. He is his own man. And it's going to be interesting to watch how he develops into what the Vikings want him to be compared to who we know he can be from his college play. It's going to be fun to watch.
I'll give you what I think, because I didn't watch. I'm not going to watch any of the rookie mini camp, all that stuff. I'll watch some highlights when training camp's going on. But I liked it. He's very well rounded. He's been very humble, and he's been very happy. He's said all the right things. He's checking all the boxes, and he immediately in his first interview said, "These are the things that I want to improve on." I think that's great. I think that he will fit in good as long as he has that "what do you want me to do" attitude. There's been a lot of debate on who's going to be the number one running back. A lot of people are saying that he's just going to take it over. We talked about this yesterday in the chat, and I'll throw it in because I don't see it in the quick hits. NFL.com guys, they did a mock draft for fantasy. He was the first Viking on the board. I think he was at 49 or 50 overall. I don't know what that says to actual real football and what that translates to. It says his value is above Latavius Murray, which is crazy because he was in like the hundreds. But I'm with Kyle and Adam on this. I think he's gonna have to earn his spot. I personally could see him coming in at running back number 2.
Yeah.
Since he's a rookie, I think he'd be I think he's an upgrade from McKinnon for sure. But I'm not sure how he's going to compare to Latavius Murray because he's such a different runner. But it's really exciting. I've heard nothing but really, really good things as far as the articles that I've seen on him, especially – and it's all around. It's not just the Viking age. It's NFL.com, Vikings.com, ESPN. They've all had high praise for him. So it's pretty exciting.
Murray says he wants to work on his pass blocking and his ball control issues, which are both fantastic to hear that he wants to work on those because – I didn't see the huge problems in his game when it came to pass blocking. I actually thought he was okay there. But anytime anyone wants to improve in areas that aren't running with the football or cuts or things that'll help the team more than an individual, I love hearing that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think if we're just going to speculate as to where people are going to start, I mean, and this isn't exclusive to the Vikings. This is pretty much every team. Your rookies come in, and when you look at the first unofficial depth chart that comes out, you'll see him listed as running back 3. Now, you shouldn't be, I don't think, worried or concerned about that, even though social media will. That's just how this is going to start.
That's how the Vikings have always done it.
To your veterans. McKinnon is the veteran. Well, I mean, I guess we did bring in Murray, but he's new to the team. But I think it's probably, even though it don't matter, you're going to start with McKinnon because he's the veteran on the team. It's probably running back 1 with Murray at 2 and Cook at 3. But it doesn't matter because no matter how these guys shake out, it's going to be a backfield that's going to have a lot of rotation, I think, when the season starts. And they're going to play mix and match, and they're going to do a lot of situational football. And you're going to see all 3 of these guys perform for the Vikings this year.
I agree, man. And the one last thing that I want to throw for that is for everybody know that we made the transition from AP to all this. AP got a majority of the workload every year that he was starting and healthy. The thing that I'm most positive about this, and I hate calling it a 3-headed monster because I'm not trying to poop all over Jerick McKinnon, but he's not like an all-star running back. He's not a Pro Bowler, but he's a good player. He's a very good fit for the team. But I like that this is going to give people fresh legs. We're not just going to grind and be a one-trick pony on offense. We're not just going to grind one player in the ground, and we're going to be very diverse. And that's the thing that makes me the most excited.
It's like the defensive line as well, taking Jaleel Johnson. He's going to be able to come in and add to a rotation to add depth and freshness. That is what the Vikings do. And while we're talking about the Vikings, talk about another quick hit that isn't written down. Mike Zimmer saying he's no longer going to play favorites on the team, which means that those exceptions that some of the veterans used to get aren't going to happen anymore.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's amazing. I always thought it was strange when veterans who still needed work on their game had spaces they needed to either get in better football shape or improve in certain areas were given exceptions from attending training camps or workouts or things like that, where they could have gotten so much more either meshed with the team or honing their own skills or whatever. I don't know. It's about time. That's all I gotta say.
It's a far cry from the Leslie Frazier time when Leslie Frazier was very much of, well, these are my vested veterans, and even though they don't have shit left in the tank, they're still going to be the starters on the depth chart because they're reliable and they've been in the league and blah 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 blah.
And the first question Zimmer got was, "Aren't you afraid the players are going to push back?"
Let them. I mean, they won't, but good luck pushing back against Mike Zimmer. See how far that gets you.
It's not gonna. It wouldn't be a physical confrontation with like the shit that Percy Harvin pulled where he threw a weight. I could see Mike Zimmer going over there and just getting in a fight with him. I'm not sure he would win, but I could see that happening and be like, no, there's gonna be some respect in here. And like what you were saying too, not to poop on Leslie Frazier because I liked Leslie Frazier as a
he was a good defensive coordinator.
Nice guy. Yeah.
Good. I don't think he was head coach material. I think they had to fill in the spot when Chili got fired, but I think that with that system that Kyle was talking about, that's where you have a guy like Danielle Hunter whose exposure never gets out there to see how great of a talent he is, because you have people that would have gotten played way too long past when they should have, and not a rotational thing or a flat out, hey, man, I'm sorry you've been a 7-year starter, but this guy we drafted in the 3rd round's better than you, and we're going to start him over you.
And a lot of talk in the chat right now about Pat Elflein, which it's not a shocker that the Vikings have already saying that they're looking at him at center. So what we're looking at right now is him penciled in as the starter at center, and then a competition for that right guard spot, which I firmly believe Joe Berger will win.
I'm with you for that battle as well. I think Berger's still got a good year or two in the tank left of high play, and I don't know. He's been comfortable. He's been a kind of a centerpiece the last couple of years, so him switching over is not going to be a big deal.
This is going to be, I think, the hardest of the final 53-man roster when we get to that time that we've ever had to do since we started the show, Adam, because there is so much turnover, and so there's a lot of different ways that this can go.
Someone is going to get cut from the offensive line, somebody with some talent. Yeah, and I don't know who it is yet, because there are too many players on the interior of that line that are quality players. Someone's going to get cut, and it's going to be whoever doesn't work the hardest, I think. I think that's what it's going to come down to.
That they've brought in on the defensive front as well, too.
Go back to week 11 last year. You guys think we would be having this conversation now where we're just like, hey,
well, last year around this time, we thought the Vikings had tons of offensive line depth as well, especially at offensive tackle after bringing in so many players, and then they just kept getting chopped down and chopped down. It was brutal. So I guess you can never have too much offensive line depth. That is the thing to understand from all that.
The best part about it all is like last year, I know there was an article written and I hated it because I had a stinking suspicion that it could have been true, but it said if this was 2012, the Vikings would have the best offensive line in the league. But these guys are older, and I don't know how it's going to pan out. I don't see it being a big thing. And now that we've upgraded the tackles, we got a center, we can shift the center to the right. It's going to be like Adam's saying this. I think it's going to be a quiet thing where we're like, oh, I guess they did fix the offensive line. If you can get into the top half of the league from where we were last year, I think that's a day and night difference.
Even an average offensive line sounds fantastic.
Yep.
Let's keep going the quick hits because we haven't been moving along here very much. We've got Anthony Barr. Of course, the Vikings picked up the 5th-year option on his contract. It's reported to be worth approximately $12.3 million, which is a lot of money to pay a linebacker. And what I was reading on Chris Thomason from the Pioneer Press is that kind of pay is what usually goes to 3-4 outside linebackers, which are primarily pass rushers. You can kind of compare them to the defensive ends, the dedicated pass rushers, kind of that rarely do anything other than go after in the backfield. So to me, I don't care whether it's an outside linebacker in 3-4, 4-3. Barr, when on his game, because let's all admit, last year Barr had a down year. So the Vikings are probably taking this opportunity to pay him a little bit more to realize exactly what they have before they lock him down to a big contract. And that's why this 5th-year option is such a big deal, and why I think Rick Spielman, for a long while there, he kept jumping back into the first round at the ends, so he could have that chance to evaluate these players, so he could know exactly what he's got and not lose a rookie after 4 years if they're a fantastic player. You know, it made sense for him to lock down Barr for that year, and even if it is paying him a lot of money. And yeah, the Vikings did the same thing with Matt Khalil, and they realized it wasn't worth locking him down to a long-term deal. But he still hit free agency and got a massive contract. So in today's NFL, it's hard to know.
I think since Eric Kendricks has came in, out of the two, I think Kendricks is slightly better. I think we would all agree on that because of last year's performance from Barr. But I think what you were saying, too, about having a down year, he still had a decent year.
Right.
I think he had some injuries, too, but He's definitely one of our star players. You got to remember he was 9th overall a couple years ago, the year we picked up Teddy. So I'm glad that I think this is the smartest thing that they could have done. Kind of like, hey man, we like you, but we want to love you. So here's a nice pickup. Let's see how much you want to earn. Cause like kind of the same thing that happened with Xavier Rhodes that picked up his 5th year. And now look at him. He's going to make a ton of money. So
He absolutely is. There's some more debate in the chat about whether or not Anthony Barr is currently worth that kind of money for a year. And to me, even if you've got to pay extra money to realize what you've got, it's worth it. You saw the same thing kind of happening in Washington with Kirk Cousins. And now they want to do it again with a franchise tag or whatever, locking down a player to a big contract before you realize what you really, really have from him is a massive mistake. And we saw it with so many players in the past.
In Chicago.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't be too concerned what the Vikings are paying Anthony Barr. $12.3 million means absolutely nothing to me as a fan. I don't care one bit what they're paying him. He's a good player. I know that statistically he was down last season, but there was a weird season for this team just in general. So I don't think that that's an overall reflection of his talent level. We know that he is a high talent, high motor guy for this defense, and I suspect that he will have a bounce back year and will get himself a nice contract extension for the Vikings.
I'm just hoping he comes back healthy and ready to rumble.
I don't have no doubt about that.
Our final quick hit is that Minnesota is, of course, rumored to be interested in wide receiver Michael Floyd, who has already been blowing up in the chat here. Lots of people talking about that possibility. He's expected to sign with the team soon, and the reason why teams haven't jumped at signing Michael Floyd yet is because they don't want him to count against the compensatory picks that they might get. See, there's a deadline, and if they sign him after that, he won't count against it. So a lot of teams are waiting on that to see what will happen. And the Vikings may have brought in a couple players, but they lost a couple players as well that were either high draft picks or got signed to quite nice contracts. So the Vikings are hoping to get some compensatory picks out of this situation. And if they were to sign Floyd right away, they would have problems with that. And who knows if Floyd is even looking at the Vikings as his top team. But no matter how it goes, the Vikings do seem to have some kind of need at wide receiver. I'm not sure how big a need it is with some of the young guys stepping up already and looking really impressive. But there is that 5th spot on the roster right now that has you wondering who's going to step up and grab it. And if the Vikings do sign Michael Floyd, it could very well be him.
I don't know how to feel about this. He has off the field issues. It's very much his fault. If you guys aren't familiar, he got a DUI last year. From the reports that I read, he was passed out at a stoplight. So I'm not sure what this. It's so indifferent because if he comes to the team and he does something awesome, cool. I don't like to do that whole thing. Like, I send differently than you. Like, we can't judge him and say, we welcome you in when Adrian Peterson had his drama. I don't like a team with people who have complications, but I can't be a hypocrite and say that I wouldn't give a guy a second chance. Speaking of just football player stuff, he's a former first-round pick. So he had a great impact with a good quarterback in Arizona. And I think if you had him, Thielen, Diggs, Rudolph, if Treadwell came around, we still have Jarius Wright. I don't know if he would fit in that or not, but we lost Patterson. We lost Charles Johnson. So we do have a need, like Adam said. If he ends up panning out and being the player he is, because he's still very young, this offense is going to look unreal compared to what it has been the last couple of years as far as wide receivers go.
But we got some more of that question about the Vikings gambling on character. We saw a little bit of that in the draft with Dalvin Cook, which I believe personally is kind of a non-issue at this point. But of course, there are a lot of people who are making a bit of a stink about that. And of course, Michael Floyd has made some mistakes in the past as well with, I believe it was DUI, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I personally, I have gotten a DUI in my life, so I can't judge that either, really. I mean, it's mistakes people make. You got to learn from them.
think is what we should just kind of look at for a minute. I think if you go from a football point of view, you're looking at a young player to grow within a system. But you also look in a way as that he was underneath Bill Belichick for a short time with the Patriots, and they let him go. So if he was really the second coming of anything, would have likely re-signed him to a contract. And if the greatest coach that we've seen maybe ever in football is like, nah, don't need you, really gonna like throw up the banners and do a parade for Michael Floyd to come do a visit to Minnesota.
But the Patriots are probably the worst example you could have used. They'll let talented players walk if they feel they have a young player who can come close to matching.
That's what I was thinking, because I know what you're saying, Kyle, and I totally get it, but they've only drafted one wide receiver in the first round in like I don't know how many decades. They don't need him. They'll get Joe Schmo that works at McDonald's that can run fast to come in and score 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. I do understand what you're saying, though, because I thought the same thing about Adrian Peterson, because I was like, if he goes to New England, I'm just not going to watch football this year because it's going to piss me off. And they didn't take him, but he's still got something left in the tank. Obviously, Michael Floyd's a little different, a little younger, different position. But you know what? Starting as we talk about this, and then we could jump into the main topic, it kind of reminds me of the Chris Carter situation. It's the same position. He had some issues. He's been let go of. I don't know. Maybe he can come to this team and maybe he can turn around. I know Mike Zimmer's a great mentor, so I wish him the best. I hope he doesn't make the same mistake twice.
We've got a lot of chat in the room here about Scott Schwab saying, who cares about character? We need talent and Super Bowl rings just as long as they're not a cancer in the locker room. I hate saying locker room cancer because cancer is such a serious thing. But I understand that it's a phrase. To me, it's just me. But so from what I'm getting from the consensus here is that the Vikings fans, at least the ones that are listening to us right now live, are big fans of giving Floyd a shot in Minnesota and see what he can do. And hey, I'm all for it too. I mean, why not? Bring in more guys you can get in to compete. Sounds great.
I want to see our young guys step it up, fill in the void. Like, let's let our guys that we got under contract right now step up and be.
I've always been a big fan of drafting and developing your own talent, but there are times when it just is better to get an established talent. Which, not that Floyd is a real established talent. I mean, he's had some great games in the past, and he does have some really great skill sets. But he just needs to bring a little bit more of that out. And to me, it depends on what they bring him in on. I mean, I don't see him as a premier wide receiver by any means, but bring him in, compete. Let's see what he can do. Let's go in now. We're going to talk about our main topic, which is the undrafted free agent signings. For some reason, I admit that I know almost nothing about any of these guys, and I'm going to butcher almost every one of their names, so this is going to be a great, great time. And by the way, I want to thank the people over on the Viking Age, and we've got the Purple People Podcast YouTube account for helping us out with some of those pronunciations, because, to be honest, last week we were just kind of guessing on some of them, so at least now we know. Now we know. Okay, let's go down the list of undrafted free agent signings. We've got Nebraska quarterback Tommy Armstrong, who we wrote an article about that over on the Viking Age about how he's going to be trying multiple positions with the Vikings, just trying to find a place to stick, because the athletic quarterback is a struggling position in today's NFL. There isn't really a fit for that position, but how athletic a quarterback can be can help translate them to other positions really well. So best of luck to Tommy Armstrong there. We've got Tashawn Bauer, the defensive end from Louisiana State. Dylan Bradley, defensive end from Southern Mississippi. Aviante Collins, an offensive lineman from Texas Christian. Caleb Kidder, defensive end from Montana. Wes Lunt, quarterback from Illinois. Isn't it just fun to say Wes Lunt?
I love that guy's name. I hope he makes the roster. I want that jersey.
And there's a newbie, Terrell Newby, running back from Nebraska. Tight end Josiah Price from Michigan, which I've watched him play a couple times. He's not a bad player. It'll be interesting to see what he can do. If he doesn't make it to the Vikings or their practice squad, maybe he'll find a place somewhere else, because he's an interesting prospect. Horace Richardson, cornerback from Southern Methodist. Richie Cepazon. Let's go Sapazon. Safety from Coastal Carolina, R.J. Shelton, wide receiver from Michigan State. Austin, Tennessee from Stevenson, defensive back. And Eric Wilson, the linebacker from Cincinnati. So after hearing all those names, I still know absolutely nothing about them. But what this means is that they are going to get chances to be on an NFL team, or at least get themselves out there, to get themselves known a little bit better, to have a better chance of latching on somewhere, whether it be a roster, practice squad, or whatever. And while we're talking about this, I shared a video in our private chat about Cedric Thompson when he was released to make room for some of these undrafted free agent signings and draft and the people the Vikings drafted. And it was one of the most powerful videos I've seen in a long time about how he called Minnesota his home and how emotional it was for him and his wife getting the call that they weren't going to be with the Minnesota Vikings anymore and what that means for them. I highly recommend giving it a watch because it is a really great video.
I couldn't do it, man. I saw you guys watch it and saw how depressing it was, and I felt bad for him. So maybe one day when I'm all up in my feels, I'll go back and watch it. It's really sad. You don't see the reality of not everybody gets $25 million when they get drafted, and it's set for life. Some of these guys are just trying to fight their way so they can pay the bills. So that was a little much for me to watch, but maybe one day.
Yeah, I highly recommend checking it out if you get a chance. Sorry about that. I was trying to catch up on the chat here. We've got Tommy Gunn talking about 5 quarterbacks on the roster, and he's excited about some multiple quarterback formations.
Yes.
You can get 5 quarterbacks on the field, but Jerick McKinnon will be throwing the touchdowns.
Yes. I want Sam to catch a touchdown pass. Was it the last game that we played against the Bears? Didn't Matt Barkley catch a touchdown pass?
Something stupid.
I believe he did. It was some weird trickery. That was quite a bit of fun.
I don't know. I just want to see one like that. You got all these guys doing weird stuff, not playing at their position. I saw J.J. Watt wants to rush against Green Bay so he can face his brother, the linebacker.
That would be amazing.
But I don't necessarily think that it works. I know whenever I see Jerick McKinnon taking snaps, my heart drops.
Now, I believe we had a couple Vikings named to the NFL's top 100 of 2017 as well. I believe it was, Everson Griffin
Smith.
And Harrison Smith.
Adrian Peterson was on there too.
Well, he's not a Viking for 2017.
Yeah, but it was for last season, so technically.
Really? I read it as 2017.
I didn't agree with this a while back when Peyton Manning was voted in the year when he took a year off and he had surgery and all that because he didn't play. Mm-hmm. It's not that he's not a good player, but he didn't play for that year, and it makes zero sense to me if you're going to judge the top 100 players of that year. And it's the same way with Adrian Peterson. The guy was awful last year, and somehow he beat out people like Danielle Hunter, and it makes no sense to me.
Understand. Well, I think a lot of that, too, is the small market bias. Players in big markets like Dallas, New York, those bigger city markets just get a lot more attention than Minnesota does. And it's not because they're bad players. It's just because they're not. This year, the Vikings didn't make the playoffs. It's a smaller market team, a smaller area. All in all, it's just a situation where if you're a Minnesota Viking and you want to make an impact on a national or global level, you really got to blow things up.
Yeah, I wish that something would get communicated to the players. Not that they would care, not that they would change it. To be like, I don't understand your justification because we're going off of the season that just happened, and I don't know. I don't agree. It kind of irks me, but it's just me in particular.
All right, so now that I believe we're through number 70, because Harrison Smith was 74 and Everson Griffin was 92. What other Vikings do you guys expect to see on the list?
I mean, Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen deserve to be on there. Whether or not they will or not, I have no idea.
I don't think we're going to see a single Vikings offensive player. I think we're going to see Xavier Rhodes and Danielle Hunter both make an appearance on the list. I think Hunter will be around 54 or so, and maybe Rhodes in the low 40s, high 30s. And I think that's going to be about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Danielle Hunter is going to make that list. I wish he would have.
You don't think Sam Bradford ends up on there somewhere?
No.
Even after setting an NFL record, just with the way quarterbacks throw 40 and 50 touchdowns, he only threw 20 touchdowns. I don't think so. I think I'm going with Adam for half of that, what he was saying. I think Xavier Rhodes will definitely make the list. He definitely made a huge leap again.
I mean, Hunter being on there mostly is wishful thinking. I want him to be there. I think he deserves to be there.
Yes.
I don't know if he's going to be there. I want him to.
I think it's going to be Rhodes and probably Thielen or Diggs. Insert either name you want to put in there. I think that's the only two we'll have left.
But I think that we can all agree that Xavier Rhodes should be included in the rest of the list somewhere.
He better be on there. You could put Adrian Peterson on when he – God, what do you have, like 1 point something yards per carry?
1.9, yeah.
Good God.
3.9 or something.
I can't deal with it. If they're going to put him in and Xavier Rhodes doesn't make the list, then I would have some choice words about these NFL players.
Well, I think we're going to keep this week kind of short, so I think that's all I've got unless you guys have a list or something to gripe about or talk about.
I have a list. I have a small list for you guys this week. I wanted to do because we're coming close to training camp and OTAs and all that stuff. So I just did really quick 5 things that I think all Vikings fans should be paying attention to, because these are, I think, the interesting stories that will unfold here. 5, I got how fast will wide receiver Rodney Adams climb the depth chart for the Vikings? A lot of talent there. Be on the lookout for him. Number 4, we talked about on the show, is competition at center and who exactly is going to be starting. What's going to be going on with Nick Easton? Is he going to be on the team? Is he going to be traded? What can happen with that? Number 3, I have Sharif Floyd. We'll even see him this season. We still don't know. I think we honestly know less about Sharif Floyd than we know about Teddy Bridgewater at this point. Number 2, we also touched upon, was running back by committee with the 3 running backs that we have on the team and how that will shake out. And the number 1 story of training camp is Pat Shurmur's new look offense for the Minnesota Vikings and how he is going to utilize all these new players that we have.
The Shurmur's offense is something that's kind of getting pushed under the rug a lot because it's going to be interesting to see this team not have to run out of the I formation. I say it a lot. The Vikings made themselves predictable a lot with both their personnel and their formations. It's going to be really interesting to see the Vikings be able to change things up, keep defenses on their toes. I'm excited to see all that this year. And if you're going to training camp, go say hi to Eric Grandal because he'll be there.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll have to. Training camp every year. I will be on the lookout for you, Eric.
And this could very well be my first year there.
You're going to go too. Fun.
I have a bold statement for the week, and it's not going to be
I like bold
out there. It's not going to be too popular, but I believe in my heart of hearts, Dalvin Cook will fall short and come up to the number 2 in the Offensive Rookie of the Year voting to one Leonard Fournette, because Jacksonville needs help there. I think they're going to use him like Adrian Peterson was used here and just hand him the ball a ton. My heart wanted to go with Christian McCaffrey, but I don't see how he works with Carolina because they usually have big, powerful backs. But I think Dalvin Cook will fall just short for Offensive Rookie of the Year votes and honors this year. We got a special kid there, and I don't know if it's going to be too much longer before it's the Dalvin Cook show. I hope everything works out with Murray, but I have very, very high hopes for this kid.
I like my statements like I like my barbecue sauce bold.
Spicy.
But yeah, I do see Cook getting some touches and being just really explosive when he does get opportunities. But I don't think he's going to get the bulk of the carries like some people are really expecting him to during his rookie year. I think he'll be slowly brought in the way the Vikings do to every rookie, really just unless they're just rip-roaring and ready to go. And like it will be that committee approach, that multiple-headed monster that fans haven't seen in Minnesota a lot. And it's going to be different to see these running backs coming in, going out, and changing things up. It's going to be strange to watch, but I'm kind of looking forward to it.
It's going to be like this year. If you follow the NBA, Russell Westbrook was the team for the Thunder, and I think that he's going to win that honor I'm not even sure if they have it out yet or what, but I think that's going to be the similar situation in Jacksonville for Leonard Fournette. I think he's just going to get so many carries, and the numbers are going to pile up because they're going to use the hell out of him. I don't think Cook's going to get, like Adam said, as many reps as one Fournette does, but I think he's going to change the game, man. I keep watching tape, and not just the highlights where all the good things. I've watched a couple of games since I've been I'm in Virginia this week, so I've been watching just games of him, and he's a grinder, man. I think we got a really, really good value at where we got him at, so I'm excited to see. But like you said, I'm just excited to see the offense change. We're finally going to modernize. We're going to upgrade.
Now, you brought up Zimmer. Zimmer had 2 eye surgeries in the last month, and he is really hoping that that's the end of it. So if he needs to go back and get more surgery done or more work done on his eye, you know he's going to do it because that's who he is, and he knows he's got a long career of coaching in front of him if he wants. Even at his older age, he's got a lot of coaching in front of him. He can coach a long time in this league. And he's still fire in the desire. That's what's most important.
About having fun, getting out there in the field and coaching up these players, and that's important.
But he's talking about having a harder approach too, which I don't know if you guys have caught me when I've been saying this a lot, but I've been sitting here pounding the table to see the harder version of Mike Zimmer, and I'm glad that it's coming out.
I listen to all the press conferences, and I've heard the comments as well. And I've been going to training camp for a long time, and we talk about this every year. Where it's like sometimes you see them in practice, and you wonder exactly what they're doing because you see the stretching and everything, and then they don't really look like for the next 2 hours that they're doing a whole hell of a lot. Fun to see if he really means it. I don't know how to say that without it's like you just kind of have to see the practices to know what that means.
Well, right now it's just words, and I'm one that I hear stuff, I get told stuff, but I never believe it until I see it. Mm-hmm. I believe Zimmer on this. I do. I believe that he is going to come out and he's going to coach this team the way he wants to.
I mean, compared to how I've seen other coaches run training camp, he already runs a tougher, harder ship than what Brad Childress did or what Leslie Frazier did. Like, by far, you can tell, but there are still lots of times where you're like, what are they doing exactly? They're just standing around a lot. So I hope to see him getting the most out of these guys.
Absolutely. On that note, that's all I have for this week. We had some great activity in the chat, so it's great to have you guys here with us. We really appreciate it. And I see that we're getting more subscriptions every week, so whatever you guys are doing to tell your friends or help out to get more people hitting that subscribe button, we appreciate it. We've also got a lot of likes already, which I like likes.
We're getting close to 400, Adam.
We are. They're getting up there.
Yeah.
I'd also like to tell people to check us out on thevikingage.com. Of course, I can confirm now that within the next week or two, the app will be released. So keep your eye out for the Viking Age app. I'm going to be a beta tester on that, and I'll let you guys know exactly what's going on. But I'm assuming it's going to be quite a bit like the Undead Walking app, which if you like The Walking Dead, download that app because it's fantastic. You'll get all my articles and the articles from my team on Undead Walking as soon as they're published. Fantastic stuff.
You'll have to let me know when that's out, man. I love it. That's really the only reason I have fan-sided. And if the mock drafts come around, once a year, I'll check them out. But that's awesome.
Absolutely. And, of course, you've got Kyle West, who's got his I believe you have a podcast going on as well, too, right?
Yes, I do. I have a second podcast. I have a website as well, too. You can check it out underneath my name. Over here, I went the wrong direction. Attacktheblog.net is the name of my website. Check it out. There are links to stuff on there.
But I do want to thank you guys, of course, for going over to the Facebook page and interacting with us over there. We've been kind of slacking on the social media again, but we are going to get on top of that situation and ask you guys more questions so we can get some great answers to questions that Vikings fans have. Also, on Twitter, we've got both Kyles who have been interacting over there, which can be great. A lot of fun over there. And I believe if you go down into the comments of wherever you're listening, you'll have our personal Twitter handles as well, so you can give us follows there if you like.
Yes.
On that note, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us live or listening wherever you're listening, and stay classy, Minnesota.